In this video, we are going to learn how to determine the rows affected and the rows selected. Okay. So whenever we fire any query, sometimes some of the rows are affected and in some cases, some of the rows are selected. So what I will do, I will just write the objective of today's video, determining the rows affected and the rows selected. Okay. So what happens is sometimes so let's first learn about how to determine how many rows are affected. Okay. So rows are affected whenever we insert any data, whenever we delete any data, or whenever we update data in a table. In such a case, the row is affected. Why? Because we are making some changes. In insertion, we are completely adding a new row. So that's why one row is affected. In deletion, we are completely deleting a table, and in updation we are updating some columns, we are updating some data, right? So even in that case the rows are affected. So let's first understand how to determine how many rows are affected. So what I will do is first I will just go to php myadmin, and here, as you can see, I am in the database called test, inside which I have a table called logins. So this is the table logins, which has three columns: ID, username, and password. And it has some value. Okay. Now what I will do, I will just insert a new row, and then we will just print out one onto the screen. We will learn how to print out that rows affected onto the screen. So let's first make the connection. I will just say dollar connection is equal to my SQLi underscore connect. And here I will just say localhost, then root, then blank, and the database name is test. I'll just say if dollar connection, then I will just say echo connection has been successfully established, else I would say connection has not been established. I will just break the line in both these cases. Okay, now I will just store my query inside this variable. Query is insert into table name is logins. Let's specify the column names as username and password. Values, let's give the values as Vatsal. Oops, sorry, we have to use single quotes. Vatsal, and we will keep the password as Vatsal, and I'll just say semicolon. Okay, so what I have done is this is the syntax to insert any data into a table. Insert into, then the table name, followed by the column names, then keyword values, and then you can specify what value you want to store in these columns. Now our second step is to execute this query. So we know what the function is. So I will just say if mysqli underscore query dollar connection dollar query, and here I will just say echo data has been inserted. And here what I will say is echo MySQLi underscore affected rows. And here we will just pass dollar connection. Okay. So what will happen is this is an inbuilt function in PHP MySQLi underscore affected underscore rows, which takes one parameter, that is the connection variable. It will take this connection as a parameter. Now what it will do is it will return us the number of affected rows in the previous query. So in this case, the query, this will be executed and it will give us the result of this query. Okay. So whenever you want the affected rows of a particular query, make sure to include this statement out after the query has been executed. Okay, just after the query has been executed. So see here, I am just executing the query, and just after that I have placed this statement. So you can have as many statements as you want outside. Just you have to include this statement after each and every query. Okay, so this is the function that will return us the affected rows. So in this case it will return us 1. Why? Because we are only inserting one row at a time. Now in this case we are just inserting one row, so that's why only one row. Okay, so I will just say here echo the number of affected rows are. Okay, so I'll just say save this and we'll just go to the browser and let's run this. I'll just go to a new tab and just say localhost and we will go to this path, our default path. Okay, so it says connection has been successfully established, data has been inserted, and the number of affected rows are 1. See, it returned 1. Why? Because we are inserting one row of data in this case. So that's why one row is affected. Okay, so whenever you want to check how many rows are affected, you can make use of this inbuilt function. It will take connection as a parameter. Okay, so it is very easy. See here, I have just made the connection and here I have just executed the query. Just after the execution, add this statement, okay, and use this inbuilt function so that it can return us the affected rows. Okay, so in this way you can determine how many rows are affected. Now let's talk about how many rows are selected. Okay, if you want to determine that, so what I will do is I will just eliminate this part. Okay, this much part, we will keep the connection as it is. And rows selected works whenever we are working with a select query, because only in case of select query we are actually selecting, means fetching the data from the database. So in that case the rows are selected. Rest in every other case the rows are affected. Okay, so we will make use of the select query. Okay, what I will say is I will just say select username comma pass from logins. Okay, now I will just show you. Inside PHP MyAdmin, we have this table logins inside the database test that we know. I will just reload this so that we can get the updated values. Okay, so we have two rows of data in this table. Now what I will do in this case, I will fetch one row of data. Let's fetch the row that has the username Kevin. So I will just fetch this row. Okay, so in this case it would return us one, that is one row is selected. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm just saying select username comma password from logins, where username is equal to inside single quotes, I will just say dollar value. Okay. Now this dollar value will contain the value Kevin, the username. Okay, I'm just storing the username inside this variable, and then I'm passing that variable inside this query. So what it will say is select the username and password. That means fetch username and password from the table called logins, where username is equal to Kevin. Okay, so it will just fetch out the username and password, that is Kevin and Mike. That means one row will be selected. In easy language, I would say one row is selected. Now I will just run this query. Okay, I will say dollar result is equal to mysqli underscore query. It will take connection and our query is dollar query. Okay. So this query will be executed and the result will be saved inside this variable dollar result. Now what I will do is I will just say dollar row is equal to mysqli underscore num underscore rows, and it will take result. Okay. So let's understand this. Now this is an inbuilt function in PHP MySQLi underscore num underscore rows that will return us the number of rows that are selected. Okay. So it takes one parameter, that is the result of this query. Okay. It takes it as a parameter, and we can just store the result inside another variable. So currently dollar row is holding the value 1, because in this case we are selecting one row. Okay, so basically this function will just return the number of rows that are selected. See, even if I hover on this, it says the description pops up, uh, and you can see it is written gets the number of rows in a result. Okay, so it will just return as the number of rows that are selected. So what I will do is I will simply say echo dollar row. That's all. Now what we'll do, we'll just run this. Okay, I'll just go to my browser and let's run this. Connection has been successfully established and one. That means one row is selected. Okay, so this is how you can determine the number of rows affected and number of rows selected in MySQL. So this is all about determining the rows affected and the rows selected in MySQL. Thank you.